Are your investment accounts exposed to too much risk? How will your nest egg be impacted the next time the market experiences a major correction? Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management.
It's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for your family.
Here's what they'll do. Review your current strategy and expose some of the hidden weaknesses of your retirement portfolio. Compile a fee report to uncover how much you're really being charged in fees. Show you safer money alternatives. Plus, we will stress test your portfolio and do a risk assessment of your current retirement accounts.
It's about planning for your future. It's about planning for your dreams.
Call Global Wealth Management now to get started on your retirement roadmap review. And if you're one of the first 10 qualified callers, you'll receive the top 10 things to consider when preparing for retirement guide. Call now. This is the Global Wealth Show with Grant Connis and Andrew Costa.
At a young age, people very close to me were really hurt by the financial markets, and that drove me to be in this industry.
The vision was to change the industry.
Everybody calls this your nest egg, and I think of it as so much more than that. This is your life savings.
So being that guide, that coach for our clients is why we do what we do.
What we do could change someone's life.
The Global Wealth Show begins now.
Hi, I'm Ben Bauman, and welcome to another edition of the Global Wealth Show, a show that helps you plan the retirement you want. Grant, Andrew, thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
You know, you've told me several times, and you mentioned this, that the families that come to see you, their number one fear about retirement is running out of money, right? So how do you go about sitting down and helping somebody work through that?
Well, it truly has been, and we've seen it over the years, and that really what made us realize throughout the years that we needed to create a formalized process, which we call our retirement roadmap review.
Yeah.
And what this retirement roadmap review does is it really allows us to dive in, offer a second opinion to our clients, really a stress test, a look under the hood, if you will, as to what they're doing with their retirement savings.
Okay.
And the first thing we do is we run an income analysis on their portfolio. And this income analysis allows us to do exactly that. It allows them to realize what their income looks like today and make sure that their income is going to last them through the rest of their life, that their income is going to be sustainable throughout their retirement.
Yeah.
The second thing we do is we run a cost analysis on their portfolio. And our cost analysis allows us to depict not only the disclosed fees, which they think they might be paying, like their advisor fee, for example, but more importantly, the undisclosed fees, these hidden costs with some investments that are really permitted to fly under the radar. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the show today. And the third thing we do is we run a risk analysis on their portfolio. Right. And the risk analysis allows us to really define what their number is. We call it their good number and their bad number. Their good number meaning what they can make in a great market if we went through a banner year in the market. Yeah. But more importantly, what's their bad number? What can they stand to lose if we went through another major market sell-off, like a 2008 type scenario? So that's what the retirement roadmap does. It allows us to really dive in and stress test their portfolios.
Yeah, so everybody that you work with, that you sit down with, walks away coming in with maybe a fear, concern at least. They walk away with this plan, this retirement roadmap review that they can look at and see specifically how to get where they want to go in retirement.
Exactly, Ben. I mean, they all of our clients have a physical written retirement income plan, this retirement roadmap review, and it's just so neat to watch our clients and follow this throughout the rest of their lives and sit down with them every 6 months or so and make sure to modify it if there's some needs to modify things or changes in their lives and stuff like that. But what this really means, this retirement roadmap review, is it gives you confidence and it gives you clarity to know that all the goals that you set out in retirement and all the desires that you had in retirement will be met. When you have that income analysis done, now all of a sudden you know that the income that you need to live your life, to pay the bills, to go on the trips that you want to go on, to visit your kids from time to time and take them out to dinner and do things like that, that you can afford to do it and you're not dipping into principal. And you know that. It allows you to have that clarity around that. The cost analysis, by knowing that you're not overpaying in this industry that's so full of high cost products, and knowing that you're not paying 3 or 4% like a lot of people might be paying, that puts money right back in your pocket. And it could be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. That's going to allow you to have that confidence that I'm not going to run out of money. I'm not going to run out of money because I'm paying too much in fees. And then finally, with that risk analysis, if you have a devastating market where it goes down 30, 40%, and you've done this risk analysis, you've made sure that your portfolio is not susceptible to those kind of losses, you now know that all these things that I want to do, I will be able to do them whether the market's good or bad, because I've protected it on the downside. So it really is an amazing thing to see our clients go through that process and have that confidence going forward.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic, and it's got to be great for them and for you to see them as well. Now, this hasn't always been as important as it is now, because quite frankly, we're living a lot longer these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it isn't uncommon today to live maybe 30, even 40 years in retirement.
Yeah.
People are living longer. I mean, years ago, you only had to plan for maybe a 10 or 15-year retirement. The game's changed quite a bit now over the years, so you have to plan for that. And it kind of reminds me of a client of ours named Alan, 95 years old, just a great guy.
Yeah.
He worked in a manufacturing plant, raised a family of 4. He was fortunate enough to save quite, he was a diligent saver, and retired in his early 60s. I mean, here he is 35 years later in retirement. He never would have thought of that.
Right.
I mean, granted, he got pretty lucky in retirement, and he was retired during some upmarket years.
Right.
But what we were able to kind of come in and help him is really to put a formalized game plan in place. That was something that he was lacking along the way. And if you have a formalized plan in place, a plan that's going to get you from point A to point B, like Andrew mentioned, that gives you a lot more confidence and a lot more clarity as an investor to make sure that your retirement's covered and you can really live the retirement that you always dreamed of, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So important. And this retirement roadmap review might be something that's missing in your planning for retirement. If so, you might want to look into that. Up next, we'll take a closer look at how you can generate lifetime income from a part of your retirement assets. First, though, here's how you can contact Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management.
Are your investment accounts exposed to too much risk? How will your nest egg be impacted the next time the market experiences a major correction?
Whether you're in retirement or nearing retirement, now is the time to secure your financial future.
Is your nest egg ready to help you meet your retirement goals for the rest of your life?
At Global Wealth Management, we want you to succeed.
Global Wealth Management is a South Florida investment management firm that specializes in capital preservation, income investment, and estate planning strategies for those planning for or living in retirement. Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management.
It's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for your family.
Here's what they'll do. Review your current strategy and expose some of the hidden weaknesses of your retirement portfolio. Compile a fee report to uncover how much you're really being charged in fees. Show you safer money alternatives. Plus, we will stress test your portfolio and do a risk assessment of your current retirement accounts.
We believe that planning for retirement should be taken very seriously.
Call Global Wealth Management now to get started on your retirement roadmap review. And if you're one of the first 10 qualified callers, you'll receive the top 10 things to consider when preparing for retirement guide. Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management. Call Global Wealth Management now. You're watching The Global Wealth Show with Grant Connis and Andrew Costa.
And welcome back to the Global Wealth Show. I'm here with Grant Connis and Andrew Costa from Global Wealth Management. We were talking about the retirement roadmap review and everything that goes into that, including income planning and risk analysis and fees. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. How important is it for us to really find out what we're paying in fees?
Well, it's really important, Ben. I mean, the more you can keep in your pocket that of the investment company's pocket, typically
Sure.
you'll win, right?
Yeah.
And what we've realized over the years is people think that they're paying one thing, and oftentimes they're paying far different than that.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 to 3 times more. And investments like mutual funds, for example, they are not required to disclose the true cost and the fees to the shareholders. They are required to state the stated costs, which are the fees that you know you're paying to own the mutual fund. But they're not required to tell you the disclosed fees, the trading costs, the taxes, some of these other fees that are permitted to fly under the radar. And we looked at that through the years and we said, you know what, this isn't right with us. You know, we partner with Morningstar and we develop what we call our cost analyzer. And what our cost analyzer does is it allows us to depict not only the disclosed fees, which you know you're paying,
Right.
if you ever read one of those little prospectus that come in the mail, but more importantly, the undisclosed fees, these hidden costs that are permitted to fly under the radar. And I tell you what, there's not a day that goes by in our practice where we don't sit down with families and they think they're paying 1%, but a lot of times they're paying 2, 3, 4% a year in fees. And when you're paying 4% a year in fees, it's pretty difficult to make money. The problem is it gets maxed, right? You know, with an up market, and you're paying 3% in fees, you don't really think about it, right? Because the market's up, your accounts are up. But when the market's flat or the market's down and you're paying 3 or 4% a year in fees, that's where it can really erode your portfolio. So you gotta really understand what you're truly paying and see if you can kind of help mitigate that cost structure. if you
Yeah,
will.
absolutely. And it sounds important, 2 to 3 to 4%. I guess that can really add up, right?
It really can, and this cost analysis has been huge for so many of you. These fees are just, unfortunately, there's so many of them in this financial industry, and so this has really helped people understand what it is that they're paying. In fact, Greg came into the office. He had been to one of our workshops, and he heard us talking about fees and costs in this industry and stuff like that. And he had done well for himself. He was a really nice guy from the Midwest. He had about $7 million in assets. And he came in, he said, I heard you talking about these undisclosed fees. I didn't even realize that they existed. But I asked my advisor before I came in to do this cost analysis, what am I paying to own my portfolio? And he kept telling him about 1%, 1% of 7 million. So I said, great, we'll do the cost analysis for you. And Greg had so many different types of products in his portfolio, mutual funds and variable annuities and unit investment trusts and all these things that are kind of packaged and a lot of times full of hidden fees. And so we did that for him and we ran the analysis. I sat him back down and we looked at it, and line item by line item, everything added up to about 3% per year, not 1% per year. Well, that's $210,000 a year in fees. And Greg was obviously very disappointed about this. And I said, Greg, well, we can obviously fix this, and this is a problem, but we can luckily fix it. And he said, I know you can fix it, Andrew, but I've been with my advisor for 10 years, and I realized that I've spent $2.1 million of my $7 million in fees, just gone. So obviously, if we can lower that, that all just goes right back in your pocket, right back to the bottom line, allows you to know that I won't run out of money. I'm not going to run out of money. All that money is going to come back and help in that situation. And when you think about it, Greg had a nice net worth, but how important is this for you if you have $500,000 or $250,000 or $1 million? Now it's even a bigger thing where you need to make sure that this cost problem is not a problem that you have.
And what it kind of reminds me of, Ben, is I was fortunate enough last summer I took the family on a Alaska cruise. So all 6 of us, kind of like one of those bucket list items. And if you've ever been on an Alaska cruise, you kind of go through these passages and you have these glaciers that kind of go into the water. It's a very beautiful thing. And I was standing on the back of the boat with my 9-year-old son, and he was kind of asking about the icebergs that were floating around in the water, and I was kind of explaining to him how they work and how you see what's above the water because you're looking at it, but you really have no clue what's beneath the water. And I thought about it, and I said, what, it's kind of like the investment world, the financial services industry. What's above the water is that advisor fee, that 1%, that 1.5% a year in fees. What's beneath the water could be another 2, 3, 4% a year in fees and investment costs. So you got to look at the full picture, the full iceberg, if you will, as it relates to your investments, because again, the more money you can put in your pocket than that of the investment company's pocket, you typically come out further ahead.
And that's a great analogy. Do you know what might be below the surface in your portfolio? Coming back, we're going to look more at fees and how much they may be costing you. First, though, here's how you can contact Global Wealth Management. Stay with us.
Are your investment accounts exposed to too much risk? How will your nest egg be impacted the next time the market experiences a major correction? Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management.
It's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for your family.
Here's what they'll do. Review your current strategy and expose some of the hidden weaknesses of your retirement portfolio. Compile a fee report to uncover how much you're really being charged in fees. Show you safer money alternatives. Plus, we will stress test your portfolio and do a risk assessment of your current retirement accounts.
It's about planning for your future. It's about planning for your dreams.
Call Global Wealth Management now to get started on your retirement roadmap review. And if you're one of the first 10 qualified callers, you'll receive the top 10 things to consider when preparing for retirement guide. Call now. You're watching The Global Wealth Show with Grant Connis and Andrew Costa.
Welcome back. In today's Global Perspective, Grant looks beneath the surface of what your investments are costing you. You may be surprised at what you're really paying. Grant?
Earlier in the show today, we talked about looking at the iceberg as it relates to your investments, not just looking at the tip of the iceberg, but looking at the full picture. And what does that mean to you in terms of the cost of your overall portfolio? And as a firm, we're not big fans of high-cost investment products. One of those investment products would be a mutual fund, for example. Now, mutual funds are required by law to give you what they call the disclosed fees, which are the stated costs of a mutual fund. Mutual funds also have undisclosed fees. These are the taxes, the trading costs that are permitted to kind of fly under the radar. And the SEC, who governs the mutual fund industry, they actually testified in front of Congress on this whole fee disclosure issue that happened over the last few years. And Congress basically came back to the SEC and said, since there's not a common way for this mutual fund family and this fund family and that fund family to report their trading costs, which is one of the most high expenses inside of a mutual fund, then they said, you know what, you can just leave that out. You do not need to tell the shareholder what that cost is. Well, what ends up happening is your mutual funds end up being 2, 3, maybe 4 times more expensive than what you think they are. So what we did is we developed what we call our cost analyzer, and it's part of our retirement roadmap review. And what our cost analyzer does is it allows us to depict not only the disclosed fees, but more importantly, the undisclosed fees, these hidden costs, these taxes, these trading costs that are permitted to fly under the radar as it relates to your investments. And here's an example of what this cost analysis does. We list all of the different mutual funds that you own here, and then it gives us the turnover ratio. And the turnover ratio is the amount of times that the manager of that mutual fund bought and sold, because that's what you're hiring a mutual fund to do, is you're hiring them to manage your money, buying and selling investments inside your portfolio. But next we have what we call the disclosed fees, and this is what you know you're paying if you ever read a prospectus. So let's take a look at this BlackRock mutual fund. This BlackRock mutual fund had an expense ratio of 0.79% a year. 0.79% a year would be a very fair cost to own that mutual fund. However, when you factor in the trading costs and these other costs within the mutual fund, it ends up costing the investor 3.05% a year. That's nearly 4 times the cost of what the stated fees were inside that portfolio. And the reason for that is it had an 863% turnover ratio, meaning the manager of this mutual fund is buying and selling investments, and they're racking up very hefty investment costs in doing so. So all in all, what this cost analysis does is it allows us to look at the full iceberg, not just the tip of the iceberg. That tip of the iceberg might be that advisor fee. Let's call it 1% a year. So in this case, this investor was paying $4,500 a year in advisor costs. That's the tip of the iceberg. But then when you look beneath the iceberg, what are the investment costs? That's another 2% on top of that. That's $9,200 a year in investment costs. So what you have to do is you have to look at the full picture. So this investor is not just paying 1%, they're paying 3% a year in fees. That's $13,000 on this $459,000 portfolio. And think about that for a minute. Look at the next 10 years. This investor is going to pay $130,000 in fees over that period of time. It just does not make sense. So getting a cost analysis done and really understanding what the true bottom line is of your portfolio, what you're really paying, can really, really help you in the long run in terms of putting more money in your pocket than that of the investment company's pocket. And here's what it comes down to. This is what it means to you. You get the call from your friends and they're going on a golf trip and they say, oh, by the way, we're going on a golf trip to Scotland this year. And you have a way where you can now save $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in fees. Then you might be able to say, yeah, I'm coming. I'm going with you guys this year. So really getting an understanding of what that's all about. And again, putting more money in your pocket, you end up coming out further ahead in the end. And that's today's global perspective.
Grant, thanks. That's a real eye-opener. We're not done yet either. When we come back, Grant and Andrew will be here to answer your questions. Stay with us.
Are your investment accounts exposed to too much risk? How will your nest egg be impacted the next time the market experiences a major correction?
Whether you're in retirement or nearing retirement, now is the time to secure your financial future.
Is your nest egg ready to help you meet your retirement goals for the rest of your life?
At Global Wealth Management, we want you to succeed.
Global Wealth Management is a South Florida investment management firm that specializes in capital preservation, income investment, and estate planning strategies for those planning for or living in retirement. Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management.
It's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for your family.
Here's what they'll do. Review your current strategy and expose some of the hidden weaknesses of your retirement portfolio. Compile a fee report to uncover how much you're really being charged in fees. Show you safer money alternatives. Plus, we will stress test your portfolio and do a risk assessment of your current retirement accounts.
We believe that planning for retirement should be taken very seriously.
Call Global Wealth Management now to get started on your retirement roadmap review. And if you're one of the first 10 qualified callers, you'll receive the top 10 things to consider when preparing for retirement guide. Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management. Call Global Wealth Management now. You're watching The Global Wealth Show with Grant Connis and Andrew Costa.
Welcome back to the Global Wealth Show with Global Wealth Management. You know, the future of your finances is far too important to leave to chance. Your goals and your dreams are yours uniquely. So we want to take time to hear some of your questions. Right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's one from Judy in Fort Lauderdale. A coworker told me she was able to roll her 401k into an IRA while still working. What's the benefit of doing that?
Well, Judy, that's a really good question. We actually see a lot of really savvy investors know that they have the capability of doing that.
Yeah, I don't think I was aware of that.
Right. And what does it do for you? Well, really what it does for you is it allows you to continue working, continue contributing to your 401k, still get the company match, but take the bulk of the assets that you saved into your 401k at the age of 59 and a half.
Okay.
You now have the ability to do what's called an in-service rollover. And what that means is you now roll that money over to an IRA, no taxes owed, everything remains the same from that standpoint. You still keep your 401k in force, and you still add to it and contribute to it and get the match. But now the bulk of your money is sitting over here in an IRA and has the whole gamut of the investment world available to you. So you have all of the options that are available, not just the options that are in your 401k. You might have 10, 15, 20 options in your 401k. Now it's in the IRA, and there's literally thousands of things that you could invest in. The second thing that it does for you is, as we know in 401ks, the most common type of investment is a mutual fund. And mutual funds can often be very costly, as we talk about a lot of times, because they're allowed to have disclosed and undisclosed fees. So now you've just rolled out of that 401k, and now you can have the ability to exit out of the mutual fund world and hopefully lower down your costs maybe in half or more, and that can be really valuable as well.
And you actually do this with some of your clients, or have done it?
Yeah, we do it all the time. It's
Really?
a very common theme. Most people are not aware that it's available. But yeah, once you've obtained the age of 59 and a half, even if you're still working for your company, you now have the ability to kind of open up that retirement plan to the investment universe.
Yeah, that's great to know. Thanks for that. Here's another question. This is from Vince in Boca Raton. I just watched the Bernie Madoff special on TV. How do I keep myself from getting ripped off? Like
Well, that's
that?
a great question, Vin. I mean, we see that all the time. We hear that question,
Yeah?
believe it or not, it comes up. I think a lot of people have seen that show
Sure.
a lot recently.
Yeah.
The number one thing that you can do is make sure that the advisor that you're trusting to manage your life savings is aligned with a reputable custodian. And for example, in our firm, we work with Fidelity Investments. So Fidelity is our client's custodian. Statements come from Fidelity, trades are done through Fidelity. Clients can go to fidelity.com and look at their accounts in real time.
Okay.
And what Fidelity does in this circumstance is they put a big fence up around our client's money. And as advisors, we can manage inside that fence, but nobody can take anything outside that fence except for our clients or the investor.
Right.
And what that does is Fidelity offers a multi-billion-dollar Lloyd's of London insurance policy to cover against any fraud and misrepresentation on a client's account. So if the advisor did figure out a way to commit fraud on the account, like a Madoff, for example, then Fidelity in that example would be on the hook for that. So it's really important that you're working with an advisor that is aligned with a reputable custodian.
Okay.
And I think the key is that it doesn't have to be Fidelity. I mean, that's who we use as our custodian. We feel very good about Fidelity. We want nothing to do with their products or mutual funds or any of that stuff. We just want them to work as the custodian to safeguard your money, to send you your statements every month, to allow you to go online and give us a good trading platform. But it can be Schwab or TD Ameritrade or the many, many other great custodians are out there. And the key is that when you look at all those horror stories, the Madoffs of the world, so unfortunate in so many ways, of course, but the other common theme amongst all of those stories, other than people losing money, is there wasn't that reputable custodian in place.
Okay. All right. That's great to know. And it is so important to make sure you have the proper protections in place. If you have a question, you can always visit AskGlobalWealth.com or call Global Wealth Management at any time. The number's on your screen. For Grant and Andrew and the team at Global Wealth Management, I'm Ben Bauman, hoping you have a great day. So long.
Are your investment accounts exposed to too much risk? How will your nest egg be impacted the next time the market experiences a major correction?
Whether you're in retirement or nearing retirement, now is the time to secure your financial future.
Is your nest egg ready to help you meet your retirement goals for the rest of your life?
At Global Wealth Management, we want you to succeed.
Global Wealth Management is a South Florida investment management firm that specializes in capital preservation, income investment, and estate planning strategies for those planning for or living in retirement. Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management.
It's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for your family.
Here's what they'll do. Review your current strategy and expose some of the hidden weaknesses of your retirement portfolio. Compile a fee report to uncover how much you're really being charged in fees. Show you safer money alternatives. Plus, we will stress test your portfolio and do a risk assessment of your current retirement accounts.
We believe that planning for retirement should be taken very seriously.
Call Global Wealth Management now to get started on your retirement roadmap review. And if you're one of the first 10 qualified callers, you'll receive the top 10 things to consider when preparing for retirement guide. Now is a great time to get a retirement roadmap review with Grant, Andrew, and the team at Global Wealth Management. Call Global Wealth Management now